And we are back
Back.
again. Come on.
Been a minute,
Man like
been
Afo.
a minute.
It's been a very long time, bro.
Been a long
Very
time.
long. Long time.
Long.
But wow. Wow, bro.
A lot
It's
has
been actually
happened
so
since we
long.
last spoke sport.
Yes, a lot has happened. A
We've
lot
missed
has
a
happened.
lot. We've missed a lot. We've watched it.
Yeah.
We've missed a lot.
I mean, you've moved down to London since then.
Before I was in my little cupboard. Now we're in bigger spaces. Now we're in the big city, man.
I like that. I like that you're enjoying Chelsea, West London life.
Yeah,
I know this guy.
I'm a West London geezer now. I'm a West London geezer.
Come on.
You've been traveling the world a little bit, though. You've been traveling.
Yeah, I've been jet setting back and
Using
forth
the
from New York.
points. Using them
You know,
points.
I've been racking up them points. I've been racking up. I went to New York for the first time in a little while this year in like May,
Yeah.
and one of my friends hooked me up with business class travel. I was like, right, I can't go back, man.
Hey, what is life I cannot change?
Bro, man, that stuff is good. That's how bro, the way they just like, how they treat you like cattle in the lower economy.
They're like cattle. They just pack you like sardines.
Yeah. But in that thing, they treat you very nice, man. I must
Bro,
say.
I did it when I went to Lagos. Bro, like even like I was being referred to as sir. Like, excuse me, sir. Would you like another glass of champagne? Yes, I would like another glass of champagne. I would like another glass of champagne. It was beautiful. But hey, listen, that's what we're trying to get to, bro. We're trying to get to a point where we can be just getting them flights, no problem. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why we need all you man to like, subscribe. TSAP podcast is back.
we're
Oh
back.
my gosh! Wow.
Back in the lives. But bro, New York.
Yes.
Obviously, when you're out there, let's talk a little bit about basketball. Because when you were out in New York, you had a chance to catch a Knicks game. What was that like?
Oh wow, Madison Square Garden, Eastern Conference semifinals, Miami Heat, New York Knicks. A storied rivalry. It was amazing. It was amazing, right? Honestly, like how New Yorkers have a certain personality, where they're supposed to be loud and like overwhelming and slightly maybe even a little bit rude sometimes. They were all that and more at the Garden, and because it's the way it's just packed in, and it's really steep and it's quite like tight on the court. It just made it that much of a better experience. It was incredible. I just sat, literally, I flew in, went straight to the game. I sat down in my seat. I missed like the first quarter just because of the way the flights worked, and I was just like unbelievably blown away by how amazing the atmosphere was. And then, bro, the amount of stars that were there as well.
Right.
You've got, I think Aaron Rodgers was there. You've got Roger Federer. You had Leonardo DiCaprio. You had just so many just like names you can just like rack off the list, and you're like, wow. Oh, Dave Chappelle was there, and Chris Rock. Can you imagine? No, that was incredible. Really incredible, bro.
Bro, I think for me, and I've been to 2 NBA games. Basketball is the best, for me, the most entertaining sport to watch live. Like being in the vicinity, being in that environment, fast paced. The game's amazing with it being fast paced. Every minute you're getting a dunk or a nice three. The music in between the breaks as well. For me, experience that I will never forget. And I went to the Boston game. So initially I went to Boston. So I went to watch Giannis we went to Milwaukee Bucks versus Boston Celtics. That was in the playoffs as well. I went with my cousin and my brother. Both of them are not into basketball at all, not into the NBA. Off the back of that, those guys are now obsessed. They're now
right.
Every opportunity when they were in the US, both of them go to watch NBA games now, just off the back of that experience that they had at, I think called it TD Garden in Boston, at TD Garden. And yeah, for me, that first experience was unbelievable. Watching Giannis, again, the Greek freak, someone that's Nigerian just like me, it was unbelievable. And the Bucks won that late in the game. So again, they won it like on a last minute shot. So for me, that was unbelievable to watch, and then playoff basketball at the same time. And then fast forward a year later, I have opportunity to go out, watch the Lakers, see Bron, one of the GOATs, play live. And for me, that was a breathtaking experience, breathtaking feeling, because something that I've always wanted to do is watch all the greats before they retire. And one thing I regret that I never had the chance to watch Serena Williams or Roger Federer. I might never get the chance to watch Ronaldo, even though like they're still playing. So hopefully I do have a chance to watch Ronaldo and Messi.
Bro, I'm down for a trip to Saudi.
Yeah?
I'm down for a trip to Saudi. Why not?
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Bro, we need to experience, to be fair, you've probably seen Ronaldo anyway when he came back.
Yeah, I've seen Ronaldo play for United.
Just to feel it, like I like to feel it. Like for me, just knowing that Bron was in the room, you could feel like, yeah, I'm in the presence of greatness right now. And similar to you, at the late, I went to watch, so that was Lakers Western Conference Finals, Lakers versus Denver Nuggets. Lakers lost that game. But
as I told you they would.
Yeah, to be fair, you did.
I told you they would get.
But every game was close, to be fair. But you're right, they did. It was a sweep.
Did they win it? Yeah, okay, they did win it. Exactly. I said I actually was generous. I think I gave them one.
It was a sweep. It was a sweep, but every game was close. I think for me, seeing someone get hot and not being able to miss. So Jamal Murray in that game, I went to watch game 3. Seeing Jamal Murray not miss, I was just thinking, like, what would it have been like back in the day when Kobe was playing there, where like he couldn't miss? Like, just the energy in the building was unbelievable. So many superstars. Saw who was there? Like Morgan Freeman, Jack Nicholson,
obviously
Quavo. Like it was, I think, and just the way they acknowledged these guys when they enter the building, like, yo, we've got Quavo in the building. Like just all that stuff. It just,
and they throw it up on the big screen as well.
Yeah, show them on the screen. But yeah, one day I need to experience courtside, bro. I need to experience.
Oh, don't worry. Should soon come, bro. Soon come. You'll be covering it, I'm sure.
Amen. We claim it.
So, Afo, what are we talking about today then?
Well, we've got to arrange for them today. You know, like I feel like so much happened in sport that we just have to talk about everything, talk about all the great things that have happened from the Women's World Cup all the way through, like from the NBA, the NFL was just kicked off again recently. Like I said, the Women's World Cup and obviously rugby is going on at the moment. But in terms of what we're talking about, so we're going to talk about rugby. I feel as if there's so many red cards and yellow cards happening within the game. Is there a problem? Does something need to be looked at? Because, yeah, it's a bit concerning.
100%.
We're going to talk about Saudi, and if the Saudi coming into play and taking the best talent over to the UAE, if that is an issue. And then I think it'll be good for us to also talk about, you know, the Premier League, talk about Man United, where you guys are at the moment. I know when we probably last did the episode on the podcast, you were gassed, talking about Ten Hag, talking about what you guys are going to do, and then you guys are a bit shaky right now. So yeah, I think we'll talk on all those three and let the conversation flow.
Sure. Well, to be honest, I want to start with the Saudi League because
go on.
I think a lot of people are talking a lot of nonsense about them. And
okay,
what is wrong with a body coming in, investing a lot of money into football, paying these players a lot, and then having, you know, some of the best players want to come and play in their league? Because I don't know about you, but that sounds like how the Premier League started.
Bro, someone said to me the other day, isn't that what Europe has done? We've taken all the best talent from everywhere in the world. Like everyone used to play in their leagues, in their countries, and now the best talent is coming over to Europe. So
yeah. And the best South Americans, the best the best players from like Brazil, Chile, Argentina, North Africa, South Africa. Well, there's not too many great players in South Africa, but across, you know, West Africa, they all play in Europe. And who's to say that, you know, spreading it out and having more superpowers is not a good thing for the game? I think we forget that football is a career for these guys, and they need to make as much as they can and then cut, because when they can't produce anymore, clubs will get rid of them as soon as they can. So I am, look, I'm not, when I say I don't see the problem with it, I wouldn't say I'm for the Saudi League, because I think there are some issues associated with them in terms of, you know, human rights and how that sports washing kind of translates across the sports that they're involved in, you know, boxing, golf, and football. But I think we shouldn't be trying to oust them out of football.
So I think for me, again, I've got a similar belief. I think it's ridiculous that we're trying to oust them out because the reality is they're doing the same thing where they've got the financial power to bring the best talent over to their leagues. Why shouldn't they be allowed to do that? Again, I think it's up to the players if they want to go or not. If they believe there's a bigger thing at play and they don't want to support and help their league to kind of become successful because of maybe things they represent that they disagree with. I think for me, what's interesting when you think about Jordan Henderson, for example, where he was so, I guess, so negative about the World Cup, was so negative about the way they were doing things in the UAE, where essentially, because Steven Gerrard has gone over there, he's been bought. And again, there's nothing wrong with it. Listen, Hendo, if you hear this, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think to kind of go over there and then try and act like it's not to do about the money, I think that's very disingenuous, personally.
Incredibly disingenuous.
Very.
But look, I think maybe Jordan Henderson felt he was pressured into commenting on England at the World Cup, etc., and potentially feeling the need that he has to comment on it. From my opinion, he's gone and he's just seen a huge bag of money.
Yeah.
And he's just said, you know what? What is a boy to do? What is a boy to? And I saw a great interview with Igalo, and they asked him, what would you rather have, money or trophies? And of course he said, well, you will leave the game, and when you leave the game, you want to sell your trophies, or do you want money?
Well, he's a Nigerian man, though. He's a Nigerian man. Nigerian, we love our peace. Everyone loves peace, but Nigerian men love their money. But he's been there for a while, though. Been there for a couple of years.
He's one of the first guys to go there. He's one of the first. I thought them signing Neymar was huge, in my opinion. Neymar's traditionally been one of the top 3 players in the world. I don't think he's been that for maybe the last 2 years or so. Yeah. But he's a huge name, and I think he's more closer to his prime than Ronaldo, and definitely Ronaldo and Messi are, in terms of them leaving to America and him leaving to Saudi. So seeing him go to the Saudi League, I was a little bit shocked by, and I think for me that's a sign that things are going to get worse for Europe.
So do you know what? For me, the Neymar one isn't a massive shock to me because I feel like there was no other club in Europe that was maybe, I can't say no other club, but I think it was tough for them to get the money that they wanted, PSG, and for a club in Europe that Neymar would be prepared to go to that would have taken him. So I know Chelsea when they said, well, are you really prepared to play in the Europa League whilst you're 29, 30 years old? I don't know if you would do that.
What, so he's happy to play in the Saudi League but not the Europa League?
But the reason I'm saying that is coming over to England, again from South America, maybe he wants to play in a warm country. Maybe he's not trying to be playing for a club that's still trying to figure out their shit. I think kind of going over to UAE, have you seen the numbers in terms of how much money he's earning, all the different perks he's going to be getting whilst playing out there? So that's why I felt it was like a no-brainer. But in terms of a move from PSG to any other European team, I don't know which other team was prepared to take on Neymar and pay him the money that he expected or was wanting. I don't know what other team in Europe could have done that.
Well, you mentioned Chelsea. I think potentially Barcelona could have worked out something. You know how they are always managed to find a way to sign players, even though they're in the biggest debt. Potentially a trip back to Real Madrid.
He's never been Madrid, but I don't know.
I know he's never played for Madrid, but I mean he's gone back and played against them. So why not go and play for Real Madrid?
Style. Yeah. Style.
You know, change clubs. I think he enjoyed his time in Barcelona, but I don't think he has a great affinity to Barcelona, like a Messi or an Iniesta or a Xavi, that he wouldn't go and play for Real Madrid.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess my question to you, do you feel as if Neymar reached his prime? Or do you think he reached his full capabilities? Do you think his career has been a success?
If you're comparing, so when you talk about success, it's relative.
Okay.
So are we saying that Neymar should have won Ballon d'Ors and should have won the World Cup and should have won the Champions League with PSG. If that is the criteria, then he's not a success. But if you're saying he should have won multiple Champions Leagues and, regardless of the team, he's won the the La Liga, and he's one of the, I think he might be one of the top international. I mean, he's scored more goals for Brazil than Pele.
Well, he's number one now.
Yeah. Number one international scorer of all time.
No, number one international.
Yeah, number one for Brazil. Right. Yeah. Right. So anytime you're on a list and the person that's below you is Pele, I think you probably have been a success. But what I would say is that he's unfortunate in the sense that Messi and Ronaldo stayed as long as they did, as high as they did, because I think there was a few years where he would have been third on that Ballon d'Or list, and unfortunately, he was just in the era, or just behind the era of Messi and Ronaldo. And now that he's still doing. I mean, if you watch him play, he still does incredible things. He's still an incredible footballer, but I think for me, less so his club career. For me, it's his international career that's been a little bit disappointing in terms of winning. Of course, he scored goals. He's been captain of Brazil, but you would have liked to see, just like Messi did last year, you would have liked to see him drag them to win a trophy, win the World Cup.
I'm trying to think. Has he won a Copa America?
Yes, he has.
Brazil won a Copa America?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think similar to you, he's achieved great things. He's had magical moments, but when you think about him coming from Santos, the hype around him, going to Barcelona, having great success there, and then going to PSG, playing with the future in Mbappe, and them getting to a final and then not being able to kind of get over the line. They didn't win the Premier League. They didn't win the league every year in Paris when he was playing in PSG. Like, when you take all the things into consideration, for me, it's been okay. I think if I was going to rank his career out of 10, I'll probably give like a 6 out of 10. Like, again, it's been decent.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'll probably give it a 6 out of 10, bro. Like, I think it's been
a multiple Champions League winner. You give him a 6 out of 10.
Well, I think people will argue that, and again, he played a big role. When I think about, maybe I'm being harsh. I bump up to 7. Low 7. Low 7. Again, I'm giving it 6.7. I'm bumping it to a 7.
It's an 8. It's an 8.
I'm not giving him an 8. I'm not giving him 8. But I think, like I said, he's the fact that like he's played on good teams.
Yeah.
At international level, he's been a part of great squads. And on the international level, like, he wasn't able to take his team. I think the furthest they've gone, I want to say, like, is maybe the quarterfinals in the World Cup.
Right.
And I think that's the year where they lost badly to Germany. I want to say is probably the furthest that they've gone. And again, he's only 30, 31. I think he's 30 now. He still has time to win another World Cup. Look at
you forget how young he is as well.
I think he's 30. He's 30 now, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, for someone who's been around for as long as he has. I'm sorry, I made a mistake in terms of he's only won one Champions League. So maybe you could say that he has underachieved, but winning the La Liga in that Barcelona team against Real Madrid.
I feel like Real Madrid were weak then, though.
They were weak in the.
They weren't. Barcelona.
No, I think it's fair to say in the league they weren't as strong as Barcelona. And I think overall it's fair to say that I think although that Real Madrid side has more Champions Leagues, the team that is recognised as being
Barcelona,
the all-time great is that Barcelona team.
Sensation. And kind of like sticking with La Liga, I think is interesting. I was talking about Saudi and how Karim Benzema, for me, that was a shock. That came out of nowhere. Karim Benzema leaving Real Madrid, not staying for 1 year of his contract, kind of going out to the UAE. Obviously, you're hearing rumours that the coach, Nuno, doesn't want him in the squad or didn't want him in the squad to begin with and doesn't really fit his style of play. But that's a player that was still and still is very much in his prime. making the move. I guess he's achieved everything he wanted to achieve, apart from maybe winning the World Cup or winning a major international trophy. He's won the Champions League. He's won individual trophies. He's won the Ballon d'Or during the era of Messi and Ronaldo. He's won a Champions League without Ronaldo, which again must be such a good feeling. Probably similar feelings Kobe had when he won a championship without Shaq. But yeah, I think absolutely. I'm looking forward to paying attention to more of the UAE games. Again, like they've got a good, like a lot of the teams have a good squad, like a good range of players. Like it's not just one or two players. They've got a good 5, 6, 7 players that are exceptional talents. So yeah, I'm looking forward to following that, bro. Looking forward to following that.
Interesting. Well, I mean, let's move on to the more established league, the Premier League. How are you feeling about the start that Arsenal have made to their season?
I'm encouraged. I think last year was frustrating with the way it ended. Throughout the season, I think as time went on, I always felt as if there were certain games where if we didn't win those games, I felt as if, we're not ready for it yet. Like, we're not there yet. And for me, when we lost that Liverpool, well, we drew, but it felt like a loss. When we drew that Liverpool game, for me, that was one where I was like, okay, cool. I don't think we're going to do it. And then I think the following week, then we lost to West Ham. I want to say we lost to West Ham, when in reality, like, we dominated the first 20 minutes of the game. And then all of a sudden, West Ham came back into the game and beat us. So for me, experiencing that was very, very frustrating. But I guess you just have to learn from those moments. You're just hoping that the players are stronger off the back of it. And then now kind of fast forward to this season, we've lost Xhaka, who was huge for us last season and been huge for us the last couple of years. Partey is injured now, long term. We've lost Timber, who looked amazing during the preseason, looked amazing in the first game. But again, now he's out with an ACL injury. Hopefully he comes back this season. You signed Havertz, where he's still trying to figure it out. I'm not down in the dumps with him. I'm still believing that he's going to make stuff happen. I'm still believing that he's going to turn out good for us. But yeah, I feel like yesterday we won 4-0. Like again, like good result. But I still feel we're not fully connecting up front with the attacking.
Yeah,
and I think that happens. Scary.
Do you think that you guys are going to be able to get it done in time to be able to compete with Manchester City, or do you think regardless they're going to fly?
I think injuries plays a role in all of this, bro. Like, if Saliba didn't get injured last season, maybe do Arsenal, do we definitely win the league? Like, do we keep our composure all the way through to the end? Like, you need to remember, we had to, for the last, I want to say like the last, 8 games, we had to play Rob Holding. And Rob Holding did his job to the best of his ability, but his ability was not good enough to win the Premier League, bro. So,
but you're telling me that to end the season that you guys couldn't have just drawn with, what was the team that you? Was it Brighton? Or
Brighton were good though.
No. But there was a team that you guys should have beat.
I think it was Southampton.
I think it was. Yes, it was Southampton. And
West Ham.
And for me, that's where it fell apart. That's where the confidence. That's where like that little shake started to happen in the players, and you guys just didn't recover from there. And then obviously you go to Man City. There's no shame in losing to Man City at all.
No shame.
You went to Liverpool. No shame of them getting a result. Yeah. And especially when Liverpool were starting to find their feet a little bit, although they did fall off the tracks a little bit, but whatever. Yeah, they're still a big club.
But you don't lose that game though. 2-0 up, you don't lose that game. You find a way to keep. Yeah. I keep saying lose. You don't draw that game. You don't draw that game. You find a way to close out that game. And Arteta, first time being in that situation, making the decisions, which is why for me I could accept that we didn't win, because it was his first time having to make those big decisions, and he's learned from it. I'm sure he's probably learned from it. So hopefully we are stronger for it this season.
But the thing is, the way the Premier League works, you don't get those opportunities so often. Like, I just think it was definitely a missed opportunity. I don't think anyone can tell me otherwise. But
yeah, I can agree with that.
I think that I think you guys signed well this summer. Yeah. I think that you're playing good football. Arteta is a great manager. From what I've seen so far in his short career. and I back you guys to do well this season. I just think that the best team in the league is Manchester City, and
Yeah.
it's going to be near impossible for anyone to catch them.
This is why I said it goes back to the injuries, bro, because I believe we would have seen it through if Saliba stayed fit for the rest of the season.
Okay, I understand you saying that, but in this season right now, with everyone, when everyone has their full strength squad,
City,
it's City.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think as much as you Arsenal fans want to believe, and Robbie says, why not? It's Arsenal. It's the Arsenal. Up the arse. No.
Bro, injuries,
as
bro.
much as that. Yeah, but I mean, look,
Injuries happens in sport, bro.
The deepest team in the league is Man City as well.
Yeah, but there's certain players, if they get injured, I think it affects City. I think it will affect them significantly.
I think if Haaland gets injured, they'll be able to manage.
You think they manage?
Yeah, I think they'll be able to manage if Haaland gets injured.
I'm trying to think, who's their backup striker at Man City? Alvarez, but Alvarez is playing as more like a 10 at the moment. But
we've seen over in history that they don't necessarily need a number, a number 9 up front for them to win the league.
Fluid.
Yeah, they're very fluid. Very fluid.
They are fluid. It's fluid. All right, bro. Listen, it's early doors. Early doors. Like I said, as I was an Arsenal fan, I feel good. I feel positive. I'm encouraged. There's still, I think, what's encouraging is that we've still got more levels to go. We've still got more levels to go this season. Things we're not fully synced up in the up front, or in the attacking position. So I'm encouraged. But bro, let's flip it though. Listen, let's go to the other side of Manchester.
That's
the one I really, really want to talk about. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about
sure.
How do you feel?
Sure. I don't feel great. I'm going to be honest. I feel like there are a few signings. So I'm going to be very clear. I like Erik ten Hag. I think he did a great job last year.
Disclaimer.
All things considered.
Yeah.
I think this year it's been a tough start, and I'm seeing a little bit of cracks in terms of old school man management that you don't see in the modern day Premier League.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, let's jump from each of the troubles that Man United are facing. So we look at the Jadon Sancho issue, right? So a player that we bought for a lot of money, a player that hasn't really delivered as of yet. I still think he's an incredible talent, and at his young age, I think he has a lot to offer the club. And I saw him when he was playing in that central attacking midfield role. I actually saw a lot of good things from him last year.
Yeah.
In those little spurts. But I don't see the need to call out players individually in the press. So one person that did that historically was Jose Mourinho. And yes, it was that Chelsea crop that he had, Lampard, Terry, Drogba, proper old school, men in inverted quotas that would react well to that. Fine, but I think we've seen in the modern day. I think Pep, I think Arteta, and even if you look at the way Sir Alex Ferguson did, he would call out the team. He wouldn't call out individuals, right? So that's a little bit worrying to me for him to do that, and I'm a little bit on the side of Jadon Sancho in terms of if you feel that someone's saying something that's untrue about you, come out and let people know your story. Don't let other people tell your story for you. So I'll let you just chime in on that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say on the Jose one, a part of me feels, and again, maybe because of a different period, but first time he was at Chelsea, I don't remember him being so outspoken about his players.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't need to be. The first time round, I think it was the second time round where he then began to.
Yeah, and then maybe at Man United, at Inter Milan, I don't really remember again, but who knows, maybe he was a lot more there. At Madrid, I'm pretty certain he wasn't that way either. So I think maybe as his value has kind of decreased more and more, and he's had to place the blame elsewhere, maybe all of a sudden he's kind of felt the need to call out players that he's not happy with.
Yeah, and look, just especially in the modern day, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You're going to have a situation like this that could have easily been avoided. So that's one thing. The two other things is obviously around Mason Greenwood and Anthony. and those sex allegations and charges, etc., that those two players are facing, and that's really. Well, let's take a step back. Mason Greenwood had a great trajectory. He did what he did, and I agree with the club in terms of letting him go. Right, even though he wasn't found guilty.
So let me stop you there, bro.
If
So for me, I don't think the club let him go. The club have let him go off the back of people not getting behind them potentially bringing him in. What's happened there? They've tried to bring him in, or maybe Ten Hag has said, let's bring this kid back in. Charges have been dropped. Let's let him continue his life. He's still got a contract, exceptionally talented. Let's get a feel. So I reckon first what they've done, they've probably spoken to the sponsors. And listen, by the way, I don't know this information, but this is my hypothesis. So my hypothesis, yeah. I feel like they've spoken to their sponsors. What do you think about us bringing this kid back? I think they've probably given them the thumbs up, like, yeah, it's fine with us. Like, no charges kind of been pressed charges have been pressed, but like things have cleared up on that side of things. Then they've sprinkled it into the media. People have got a whiff of it and then been like, what the fuck? Like, are you guys really seriously considering this? And then they've decided to backtrack. So I don't think Man United have said, we stand strong. What this player has done here is wrong. And we're not going to have him a part of the squad anymore, regardless of what's happened externally. I think their hand has been forced. And that's the reason why they've loaned him out to Getafe.
And that is linked. So if your hypothesis is true, that links to what I think around our ownership and how from the top down, there is a really poor leadership within Manchester United. Right? And I think when people hear United fans talk about the ownership, they're like, oh, they've spent more than anybody else. They've put money into you guys buying how many players, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not necessarily the full story, because you can give money and it can be spent horribly, or you can do it sensibly like Manchester City have done. And they hardly ever, now, they're so consistent with their signings that they hardly ever have a dud. But throughout history, Man United have had horrible uses of that money. But that's a side note. If we had an ownership like, let's say, like Man City, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they would have let just like they did with the French fullback
Benjamin
Mendy, just like they did with Mendy, let him go through the process, and then once all of it's over, you've realised that the relationship is no longer tenable. You let him go, and you just really do it really smoothly, really clean. There was no criticism to Manchester City in that process. Some people say that why did they let him go if he was innocent? For me, it's their relationship was untenable, and they quickly and smoothly let him go. At Manchester United, because of the state of the club and the poor leadership from the top and not having clear direction, they were dragging their feet with this Mason Greenwood situation, I thought I would not be surprised if they actually did what you said and were trying to get flavoring out there, just have a little tasters, let the sponsors, let the fans see, oh, okay, what do we think about this? And because of the desperation of the fans, the actual Manchester United fans, maybe they would have been okay with having him back. But I think the majority of fans wouldn't have been happy with that. So that's another thing. The Anthony situation, again, he's a player that for me hasn't done it just yet. I think he's had great moments. I go back to the game against Arsenal early doors when he joined. I thought that was a good goal. And we were going back and forth in terms of his output and whether you think he's a good signing or not. Right now, I still think the jury's out. I don't think you can say he's been bad. He's either a bad or a good one. I think he's a player with ability, and he could potentially be built into a better footballer. I do think that he's not direct enough for the Premier League. I think he's very one-footed, and those are all deficiencies in his game. But in terms of, again, his accusations and things of that nature, again, we have to let him go through that process. And if it comes that, you know what, even though you're made innocent, the evidence that's brought forward is too damning for you to play for Manchester United Football Club, then easy, do that. Keep it stepping. You know, release him from his contract, let him go back to Ajax or wherever, or go and play in Brazil, and that's fine.
Brazil. Yeah.
Okay, and then okay. So let's now come to this season, right? We'll do each one by one. I think there are a few reasons for the poor start to the season for Manchester United. I think one being, I think Erik ten Hag, when we lost to Brighton last year at the early stages of the season, he then kind of changed the way we played a little bit. He actually resorted more to a counter-attacking football, but not to the same degree as an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But I think our main way of scoring goals was through counter-attacking. And I think that was also linked to the fact that he didn't trust, once he realised that it's going to be really difficult for David De Gea to play from the back fluidly without putting pressure on the centre-backs, that it wouldn't make sense. And for him to get some sort of success out of the season, he would have to adapt the way he wanted to play.
Yeah.
Now, I think now that he has Onana, who, yes, he's had a tough start to the season, but if we look to his performances in the Champions League final, he's a great keeper. From all the statistics, he's great from playing out from the back, etc. And he's a fantastic passer of the football.
But you're passing there, bro. That's not his job.
Hold on. Well, for the modern day goalkeeper, it is, but it's there again. There are two parts to the job. I think we're starting to play the Onana, passing from the back, the same thing that Alisson and Edison play at Liverpool and City, etc. But we don't. It's going to take some time for that to be integrated into the way we play, and I think because we're doing that, we're actually inviting more pressure onto ourselves than we did previously, because our defense was actually quite good last year. But this year, I think we're inviting more pressure onto ourselves because of that. And with the amount of injuries we have at this moment in time, so if I look at the players that are out, you've got Malacia, Shaw, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, those three just there, like Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw was our third choice centre-back when Varane was injured. So then we would put him and Martinez playing next to each other. Or when Martinez was out, Luke Shaw would be in there. And then you have Malacia, who was a great fill-in, I thought, as well. And then Aaron Wan-Bissaka, in terms of, any criticism you have against him, defensive plays is not one of them. Someone who can...
Yeah, I can get with that.
Who can stop a wide attacker, he can do that to a T. So those guys are out. And then you've got Varane, Maguire, both out. Look, I'm not gonna cry over Maguire not being out, right? But Amrabat also hasn't filled in, and we've realised that we do need a destructive defensive midfielder in that midfield alongside.
You don't think Casemiro is that?
You need alongside Casemiro. I think at his advanced stage, obviously, I think he's only just turned 30, right?
I want to say Casemiro's. I want to say he's 31.
Well, 30, 31, right? I feel like he's been great for Real Madrid, and he was able to do that role by himself. Maybe now, and I think in the Premier League, it's harder for one player to do that role, especially in a club that doesn't maintain possession as much. And then also Mason Mount has got an injury. He's someone that, again, he wasn't playing well, but give him time. What was it? 2 games before he got.
How do you honestly feel about that signing though? And we'll move on to another topic. We've spoken for a minute, but
yeah,
how do you feel about signing?
I think Mason Mount is. Well, I think we paid too much for him, but I don't really care about how much you pay for players.
It's not your money anyway. It's not
exactly. From what I saw from his great season at Chelsea, I think he's a player that we definitely needed at Man United. Someone who can do box to box, someone who's versatile, someone who I think can. I don't think he's great as a purely defensive role, but that link between the midfield and getting it to Bruno, etc. I think he's something he would be great at.
So you think he's a centre mid? So in your mind, you think Mount is a centre mid?
Yeah.
So that's why I slightly disagree. I feel as if, and I think Mount and Bruno are similar in their styles of play. I feel like Mount doesn't see the picture well enough in terms of knowing where to play the next pass or understanding like where his teammates are on the pitch, and that's the reason why it feels as if he gets caught on the ball a lot. Which is why I think if he's going to be successful, so he's been successful, he's got to the Premier League, but if he's going to be a top player in European football, I think he needs to go out wide. I think he needs to play as a wide playmaker. And then obviously you have goal scorers and greatest players around him. But I think him playing next to Bruno is disaster, because both of them, like, even though I think Bruno's got more of a picture in his mind in terms of knowing where he wants to play the next pass, Bruno, to me, doesn't know how to, like, okay, cool, like, let's calm the game down and, like, let's pick a pass. Like, sometimes Bruno just kicks it. And I saw a play yesterday against Bayern Munich where the ball came over to Bruno. He's taken a touch and then just blasted it with his left foot. And I understand, like, magical moments happen, but before he took that shot, I knew that moment wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, so that's
why I don't think him, and I think that's the clash. Like, I think so much money is spent on Mount that I don't know if Ten Hag is going to be brave enough to say, I'm not going to play these two guys together.
So I see it from the opposite perspective. You know, I think that I think he's probably too stubborn, and I think this kind of leads to brave in the opposite sense, that he believes and is loyal to these players, and he's going to be brave enough to play them even though they're not playing well. So I'm talking about Anthony, I'm talking about Mason Mount. With Onana, he's a goalkeeper. He'll play himself back into form. If you don't think he's a great shot stopper, I think give him some time. He'll probably get those mistakes out of his game. I think it's incredibly early in his signing for us to make that judgment.
Yeah, give him time.
But yeah, exactly, give him time. But I think what Ten Hag's downfall might be is that he commits to these players that aren't playing well. And look, I don't think Scott McTominay is a great player, but he's someone who you can see for Scotland, he puts in good performances, and I think he's their top goal scorer. He's one of the top. I think he's the second top goal scorer in the European qualifiers right now, right? So
useful.
That's not. It's exactly just. It's a useful player to have to put pressure. He's literally just there to put pressure on the better players so that they play well. And then when you need him, he comes in and does that. So that's one thing I'm concerned about. And if I could just make one final thing, and in reference to the ownership as well, I think in terms of how we run our club in terms of transfers, is way too much power given in the modern day. Way too much power is given to Erik ten Hag, because what we've seen is just an influx of every single target that we want is from the Dutch league. He has to have some link to Erik ten Hag. If you look at Onana, if you look at Anthony, lazy, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's actually quite lazy recruitment. And that's not. I do think Onana's going to come good. I'm not sure about Anthony. I'll be honest about that. I think
that's interesting, because you listen back to our earlier episodes. Anthony was someone that you believed in, and obviously, I think we'll talk about Anthony another time, because again,
we've got to move on.
Yeah, Anthony's an interesting one itself, and I think we'll do an episode where we bring other United fans onto it as well.
Yeah, sure. So let's do that.
Yeah,
let's do that.
That's fine. I'll move on from Anthony, because I've got a whole bunch of stuff to say on him. But no, I think.
So for what the only point I want to make is it's a bad start. I think there are reasons behind the bad start. I think over time they will get better. Do I think we're going to finish in the top 4? I think we might just be able to sneak in there, but with with Chelsea still not being great, I think Liverpool I'm not 100% sure on as well, with them, especially with them losing Henderson. We've seen in the past when they lose Henderson, that's a big loss to them in terms of leadership and direction. They're a different team with him in it, with him out. Okay,
yeah, bro. Listen, like it's early doors. Like again, early doors of the season. Let's see the way things play out. You guys still got a result, even though it flatters you. Good. You still lost. It was 4-3 yesterday. So so we'll see how the rest of the season plays out.
I think Tottenham and Newcastle. I think they're going to be good this season as well.
Even Brighton, bro.
Yeah, Brighton are great, man. The way they recruit is incredible.
Different, like again, like in terms of flipping money, like about the talent that they brought in, and then just being able to flip it a couple of years later. Crazy. Even their striker at the moment, Evan Ferguson. I wouldn't be surprised if someone bids 70-80 million for him next year.
Wow. And how good is Danny Welbeck, man? just rolling back
And
the
I
years.
love Danny Welbeck. I
I
guess
love I
for
love
me,
Danny
Danny Welbeck's
Welbeck.
always
Yeah,
felt like one of the brothers. Like he's always felt like one of the bros.
yeah.
Like
No,
again,
I
he's
like
got, he's
Danny a
got a
lot.
nice demeanor about him.
Definitely a good guy. We never should have sold him.
All right, let's switch it. Let's switch it, bro. You went to Paris. You went to Paris, right, to watch the rugby.
Yeah, no, I went to Marseille.
Was it
I went to
Marseille?
Marseille. Yeah, I went to Marseille to watch England versus Argentina.
Okay.
Great English performance. George Ford doing one of the best drop goal performances I've ever seen in my life, and probably the best that I can remember, to be quite honest. And they managed to win with 14 men.
Mm. Yeah,
And
that was epic in itself because England has been tough for England the last 2 years. They've been tough for England, and to kind of see the red card happen, and in my opinion, I think that red card was BS. Personally, I thought that red card was BS. But just to be able to come through that game with the pressure, Argentina a good side, and to see it through convincingly. For me, that was very, very encouraging. Very, very encouraging to see. So yeah, very excited for how things play out. I think the next game is against Chile, but I guess for me, I think what's interesting is I feel as if with the World Cup going on, even though it's happening next door, to me, the buzz doesn't really feel there, and maybe it's because England aren't firing on all cylinders at the moment. Maybe it's because like we're not in our full form, we're not balling out, so maybe like the country's not behind them as much. But for me, it doesn't feel as if a Rugby World Cup is happening right now.
that's really interesting that you say that, because the opener, France versus New Zealand, was one of the most is the most watched rugby game of all time.
Interesting. What? So globally or in the UK?
Globally.
Yeah. That was a very, very good game. I watched that one as well. That was a very good game.
All right.
But I don't know. Maybe it's the circles I'm around. But
okay. So let me ask you a question. When it was the Japan World Cup, you felt that one more. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, because I felt as if England, in the build up to that, England, like we felt really good about England. Like we felt really, really good. Like England were like good form, scoring well. Like everything was just clicking. So I think for me, like going to Japan, I felt the buzz. I felt the excitement. Again, maybe it's because of like the circles I'm around. Maybe again, that's the reason why. I work for a company now where I work with a lot of women, so maybe like they're not into rugby, so maybe that's the reason why as well.
So what I would say is, I think yes, that probably has a lot to do with it. I think with England not being as good in terms of their performances, you are likely to not be as intrigued by the whole thing. What I would say is, from a rugby fan perspective, those who are like
it's
I think it's red hot. You're having some of the biggest games in the last 4 years played. So you had that new opener between New Zealand and France. This weekend we're having South Africa versus Ireland, and we saw Fiji playing incredibly well against Australia and causing an upset. So I think there are so many incredible stories happening in this World Cup, and maybe it's not touching you because let's remember there's a lot still going on in terms of sports. When the Football World Cup goes on, kind of everything else kind of like shuts down, takes a back seat. And I remember, and that usually happens during the summer, while this is happening at the start of the Premier League season. So automatically you're going to be more aligned to the Premier League and all the happenings of there. There's huge boxing fights happening at the moment. We've got Joyce Zhang. So yeah, I think maybe from that perspective, but also there's an issue within rugby in regards to like this head contact business, and I think still some people don't understand the rules, because you know what, it is a little bit of a complicated game. It's not as easy as, look, you kick that ball, pass it, you can't pick it up, just kick it into that net. I guess that's very easy to understand and translate across the world, right? I remember, I think a lot more nations are involved in. No, it's not. I think a lot more nations are involved in football. Oh, can we take a little diversion? Actually,
where are we going?
I want us to go to. You're gonna have to remember his name. I think you'll remember his name straight away. But the American Olympian athlete who quoted that world champions World
Oh,
champions of
no,
what?
Noah Lyles.
Noah Lyles.
I was in
World
Noah Lyles.
champions of what? So just because
Yeah.
we were talking about the World Cup, it just reminded me of that and how people have gone back at him in the US. I'm like, guys, you are so I remember Stephen A calling him ignorant
Ignorant, bro. A whole bunch of
when
them.
it when in reality, I think they are the ignorant ones.
Absolutely.
Because well, I'll let you go first on this one.
Yeah, and you know what? When I heard it, I think it just shows how, I guess, the arrogance of Americans when it comes to American sport. Because I always felt from when I got into American sports, maybe in the last 7, 8 years, when they refer to themselves as world champions, I never really understood that. Like, how can you refer to as world champions where you're not even competing? It's not even as if, like, yes, you've got talent from all over the world, but you're not even doing a competition where it's a final between the best team in Europe, Asia, Africa coming, and then you've won that tournament. Like, how can you say that you are the best when the tournament or the competition you're in is based in your own country? Like, how can you actually say that? Yes, you've got the best talent, but imagine like Europe saying before they've even played
I was literally about to do that.
the club world championships and saying we are the best in the world. And yes, you can probably say that before they've even played those games because the best talent is in Europe, but you can't call yourself, they say European champions. You don't say we are world champions until you've played other talent teams outside of your I guess your
even if you think it's a foregone conclusion that the Denver Nuggets will be the best team in Spain, right? Until it's done, I don't want to hear world champions. But also, I think world champions shouldn't be allocated to club sports. It's about international teams, right? And if there's an NFL, GB squad versus the USA, then absolutely that they can call themselves world champions. But I just think it shows a little bit the arrogance of some people who view this argument. I'm not going to say of Americans because I have a link to America now, which we won't divulge into. But I do think that just shows the level of arrogance that some of these like American sports fans have about their sports. And for me, the only way you can become a world champion is if you're playing against other nations. So you're an Olympic world champion, then you're the world champion. If you win the World Cup, you're a football World Cup champion. Bro, even when we talk about the Club World Cup, no one really calls them the world. No one cares. No one
cares. Because I think it's your European champion. I think Americans don't being called like, what was it, like the American champion, United States champion. I think it doesn't have that same
gravitas
flavor. So that's
But it should, because they all know. We know that that's the best club basketball team in the world.
Yeah.
But as a nation, they've been losing international games against what was the team they lost to the other day?
They lost to Germany.
Was it Germany?
They lost it. So honestly, they lost to Germany in the FIBA World Cup because Germany went on to win it. So honestly, they lost to Germany. So they lost to Germany. Right. Then Germany won the whole thing. They beat Serbia in the final.
Yes, you're right. They lost to Germany and they lost to Lithuania.
Yeah,
wow,
look at that. In the groups.
And they lost to Canada. So, bro,
they lost to Canada for the third place.
So come on, I think
at the same time, it's not their best talent. So
no, it's not. But that's what that's look. If your selectors can't select or can't play the best talent, whose fault? That's not Lithuania, Canada, or Germany's fault.
No, facts. I hear it, bro.
That's their fault.
Something as we're talking sport, and I was like, oh crap, we should have touched on it earlier. Seeing Coco Gauff win the US Open for me was amazing, bro. Like, because I remember hearing about it for the first time at Wimbledon. I think she was 15. I want to say she was 15 when she played, 15, 16. And like her being a bit upset because she didn't perform. And then to kind of see her, and I think she's now 19, a couple of years later, and to win the US Open in the manner in which she's done it, for me, is just, one, you feel old because, again, you kind of remember where she started a little bit. In terms of like when she hit the scene. But to know that she's been able to achieve that, tick off her first Grand Slam in her home nation, was beautiful for me. And like kind of seeing old videos of her going to the US Open Her thanking her dad, her parents, everyone in her team. That was beautiful. That was so, so beautiful. And I think talking on the whole thing about world champions, it's interesting how in tennis, they don't refer to themselves as world champions.
No, no. You get to refer to yourself as the world number one when you hit the you hit that, but yeah, in terms of just because you win the US Open, it doesn't mean that you're the.
But if you win the Olympics, are you the world champion?
Yeah, I guess so.
You could argue that.
I guess you could argue it. I think it, depending on the. Actually, yeah, no, I think if you win the Olympics, you are considered the world's best, because from what I remember, when Andy Murray won it, the world's best were part of that, and he won it fair and square. When Serena won it, the world's best were playing in that as well. So yeah, I'm aligned with that. But just with Coco, I just compare her to Raducanu, right? And I see a more consistent player potentially coming out of her, and probably an all-time. She has a greater potential to be an all-time great, because they both. I can't remember the age that
similar. I think Emma won it 2 years ago.
2 years ago, right? You go.
Emma was 18, so Emma's probably 20 now. 20.
Right. So
yeah.
So I just hope I just have a stronger feeling that she will continue and be great. And I'm always happy to see Black Girl Magic.
Hey, always good to see the sisters winning, man. Always
absolutely,
beautiful to see.
Absolutely.
But yeah, flip it back to where we were before with with rugby. So let's start talking about the red cards, bro. Like, what's your thoughts on it from a viewer perspective?
So I love rugby. Played it. We played it at school. I still play now. And one thing I love about it is that it's a physical sport. It's a dangerous sport, and you're not going to be able, if you take the physicality and the danger aspect out of it.
Yeah,
you're not having the same sport. You're just not. It's not the same sport, right? So once you take, and you have to accept that there are rugby incidents. There are just incidents that are unique to the sport, and it's going to happen. So I thought let's look at the Tom Curry, and the lack of consistency in these calls is the worrying thing. So if we look at the Tom Curry situation, yes, he doesn't dip his hips, but the player is falling from a height, catching a ball.
Yeah,
he has to judge in split seconds,
quick, yeah,
how
quickly
where the player is going to land, and to be able to make a dominant hit. In my opinion, if you want to give him a card, it's a yellow card, and then it's play on. And then I look at other incidents where it's just like a straight shot to their head, and they give a yellow card, or they don't even cite it. So for me, I think we need to take a step back on these red cards, because in my opinion, they're ruining games. And England were very fortunate that George Ford had a game plan, and we stuck to it. And Maro, Courtney, Benno all played incredible from a defensive perspective. Manu Tuolangi as well, defensively put in some hits. But consistently, if they get to a later stages, or if any club gets to the later stages and they have a red card, they're not winning that game. Okay, because those are the top teams playing against each other. You're not going to win that game. So
do you think they'll rep the games differently though?
I think so. I think they will.
You have to.
I think come the quarters and semi-finals, they're going to be a bit more lenient.
Yeah.
In terms of these bunker decisions and calling these red cards, because you can't have a quarterfinal disrupted by or a semi-final or God forbid a final decided by a red card.
Yeah.
And as I said before, what's really worrying is the inconsistency. So players and coaches just want to know what the law is. If that's the law and they get caught by it, fair enough. But when there's this inconsistency, that's what's gonna make the game worse, and worse for the viewing public. In my opinion, a red card should only be for malicious. So if you have malintent towards that player, and second one for overly reckless.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're just being stupid and you do something that's very dangerous and you injure someone, the consequence doesn't have to be an injury, but it's overly dangerous, then I accept that you deserve a red card. So, for example, if you try and punch someone, red card. If you are running and you jump into a tackle, no wrap, just your shoulder, and it hits someone in the chin, that's a red card.
That's a red card.
But if you're trying to make a legal tackle and you fall down and someone's head dips or someone's head it just happens to hit your shoulder, it's maximum a yellow card, and then you play on. But the last point I want to make on this from my perspective is rugby needs to change to become a little bit more like American sports, in my opinion, so that if you get a red card, then somebody else, just like if you get a flagrant foul in the NBA,
someone else swaps out for you.
Someone else, you're gone, but someone else swaps in for you. For example, if Dupont was to get a red card, you swap in another scrum half for France, and they continue playing. That is a loss in itself because Dupont is such a great player. So that, for me, is a way around this red card situation, because the only people that are really being hurt by this are the fans.
Yeah, and I think for me, when a red card happens so quickly or early in the game, and it's a grey area, I think that's my biggest issue with it. I just don't appreciate the grey areas. I don't appreciate the inconsistencies. I always wonder when it comes to sport, when you've got humans making the decision of whether something's a red or yellow, how much does bias and prejudice play in it? How much does I'm from this country and I hate this country, like how much does that play into it? How much bias of this team or this nation is very, very aggressive, so you're more likely to see it in an aggressive manner when considering, is this a yellow or red? But yeah, I think it's something that they have to look at, because yes, you care about player safety, but with the route we're going down now, it's spoiling the game. God forbid it spoils like a semi-final, final, like any of the knockout games. Or you kind of like get a situation where fans lose their interests a little bit, like they kind of don't want to watch it as much. Or I don't know if we'll ever get to that, but let's say like it loses so much of it because maybe players are now scared to tackle, so then the defense declines a little bit. So yeah, I'm intrigued to kind of see what they do off the back of this, because something has to be explored. I don't know if there was any red cards last week. Actually, there was a less red card last week. But yeah, something needs to be explored, because what we're doing right now, it ain't it. Yeah, absolutely. There we go, Roy. We're back in business. Look, we got the first pod back out of the way, guys. Out of the way, bro. As always, like, share, subscribe. It's been incredible to be back with you guys. We're gonna try and be a bit more consistent and try and get you guys the content you want. So great to see you guys again. Peace out. Love. I'm a different type of rock star. I got class and I got Henny overflowing up my shot glass. And yeah, I know I'm not a keeper, but can you be my mama seater by the time I'm done with